The knock on the door came at 6 p.m. on a Wednesday evening. Within minutes, 5 Indian men found themselves facing serious charges, their laptops seized, their phones confiscated. But what's making headlines across Thailand isn't just this single raid, it's the pattern emerging. In just 1 week, 22 Indian nationals were arrested in Pattaya alone, and the question everyone's asking is, what's really driving this sudden crackdown? On that Wednesday evening in November 2025, immigration officers raided an upscale condominium in central Pattaya on Soi Theprasit 17. Police Colonel Nafatfong Hosit Suryamani, head of Chonburi Provincial Immigration, led the operation along with his deputy, Police Lieutenant Colonel Kawanwat Araya Surivong. The raid began shortly after 6 p.m., targeting a second-floor unit where 5 Indian men were discovered sitting at computers surrounded by more than 20 mobile phones spread across tables. The evidence seized was extensive. 3 laptops, 22 mobile phones, 1 tablet, several credit cards, and accounting books, showing money transfers totaling several million Indian rupees, approximately 2 million baht. The suspects claimed to be customer service administrators, but refused to provide details about their actual work. Investigators say the financial records clearly demonstrate the transfers were used to top up credits on online gambling platforms targeting customers in India. The men now face charges under Article 8 of the Foreign Employment Regulation Act, with additional investigations underway for online gambling-related crimes. But this wasn't the first major operation that week. Just 1 day earlier, on the evening of November 17th, the same immigration team conducted a raid at a residential house on Soi Sukhumvit Pattaya 57. Acting on intelligence reports about suspicious activity, officers noticed several Indian men exiting the house with suspicious behavior and immediately entered the premises. Inside, they discovered 17 Indian nationals scattered across different rooms throughout the residence. Initial checks revealed a shocking pattern. 15 of the 17 men had overstayed their visas, while only 2 possessed valid tourist visas. The living conditions and the sheer number of occupants raised serious red flags. Immigration officers suspect the house was operating as a waiting shelter, a transit point where employment brokers temporarily hid foreign workers before dispersing them to job sites throughout Pattaya. Through an interpreter, one of the workers revealed how the operation worked. He told police that an Indian employment broker had brought him and others to Thailand with promises of legitimate work in the Pattaya area. The group had been living together in this house, waiting for job placements, but their visas expired during the waiting period. They were trapped, unable to work legally, unable to leave without facing consequences, caught in a system controlled by brokers who had made promises they couldn't keep. The 2 Indian men who held valid tourist visas weren't immediately released. They're being interrogated extensively to establish their connection to the overstayers and to determine whether they're genuine tourists or involved in the illegal employment network. If police determine they're not authentic tourists and are seeking work illegally, they'll also face deportation and visa cancellation, even though they technically haven't broken any laws yet. Chonburi Immigration Police have initiated deportation procedures for the 15 visa violators and are now expanding the investigation to identify and apprehend the entire network of brokers behind the operation. This isn't just about the workers themselves. Authorities want to dismantle the systems that enable illegal employment and visa abuse. These 2 operations, netting 22 people in just 48 hours, are part of a nationwide enforcement campaign ordered by senior Thai law enforcement officials. The directives come from the highest levels, indicating this isn't a local initiative but a coordinated national policy. Since January 2025, Thai immigration has refused entry to approximately 2,900 individuals for abusing visa rules. But these enforcement operations didn't happen in a vacuum. They're the culmination of months of growing tension and complaints from multiple sources: tourists, local residents, and business owners, all expressing frustration about changes they're witnessing in places like Pattaya. To understand why Thai authorities are taking such aggressive action now, we need to look at what's been building up over the past year. The tourist demographics in Thailand have shifted dramatically. Where visitors used to be mostly Europeans, Americans, and Australians, and the number of Indian tourists has grown by 340% from 2019 to 2024. More than triple in just 5 years. Flights got cheaper. Thailand introduced visa-free entry for Indian tourists, allowing 60-day stays, And for many middle-class Indians, Thailand became their first international trip ever. This rapid growth happened so fast that it created cultural friction that neither side was prepared to handle. Western tourists who've been visiting Thailand for years began voicing complaints that their vacation experience had fundamentally changed. The Pattaya Hotel Association reports that about 15% of Western tourists who regularly visited the resort chose other destinations in 2024, heading instead to Cambodia, Vietnam, the Philippines. They describe feeling like the peaceful Thai atmosphere they fell in love with has been replaced by something entirely different. The complaints aren't about any single nationality, they're about a rapid demographic shift that changed the character of destinations they'd been visiting for years. But it's local Thai residents who've been most affected by these changes. Many depend on tourism for their livelihoods, but they're also seeing their neighborhoods transform. Thai locals report feeling disoriented in their own town. Walking down familiar streets, they now hear more Hindi and Punjabi than Thai. In what locals call the Arab Quarter, though nowadays it's predominantly Indian businesses, you'll find Indian restaurants serving different cuisines, and the air carries the scent of different cooking styles and spices. It's created a cultural enclave where Indian visitors can feel at home, but it's also contributed to a sense that the city is becoming divided rather than integrated. One particular issue has generated intense frustration. Groups of tourists walking in the middle of roads instead of using sidewalks. In many parts of India, sidewalks might not exist or are blocked by vendors and obstacles, so using the road for walking is completely normal. But in Thailand, this behavior creates dangerous situations. Thai drivers navigating through traffic suddenly encounter groups of people strolling down the middle of the street like it's a pedestrian zone, completely unaware of the vehicles trying to pass. Motorbike riders have to swerve, cars have to slow down and honk. For locals dealing with this daily, the frustration has built to alarming levels. Throughout 2024, that frustration escalated into something disturbing. Young local residents in Pattaya started riding by on motorcycles and slapping tourists on the back of the head as they passed, specifically targeting those walking in the road. This wasn't just one or two isolated incidents, it became a pattern that local police had to address. The violence signals that Thai cultural values of enjoying life while remaining considerate of others were being violated so consistently that even traditionally non-confrontational Thai people began responding with aggression. The complaints aren't limited to cultural differences in public spaces. There's another problem that's generated thousands of reports from tourists of all nationalities. Aggressive street vendors selling fake miracle products for weight loss and hair growth. The scam follows a predictable pattern: friendly conversation, building rapport, then aggressive sales pitches for expensive products with false health claims. In September 2025, a Thai woman and her Indian friend paid 12,500 baht for what laboratory analysis revealed was just ordinary honey. The complaint volume became so overwhelming that Pattaya authorities launched raids in August 2024, uncovering networks of Indian and Nepalese nationals operating without proper permits, many overstaying their visas. Facebook travel groups are flooded with warnings from tourists describing being followed and harassed on the streets. For Thai police and immigration authorities, these complaints represent more than just nuisance issues. They see damage to Thailand's tourism reputation, the kind of damage that drives away visitors entirely. And here's the critical context. This enforcement crackdown is happening exactly as Thailand announced a major strategic shift in its tourism policy. The Tourism Authority revealed plans for 2025 and 2026, focusing on quality over quantity, specifically targeting high-value travelers from long-haul markets, like the United States, United Kingdom, and Europe. The shift in enforcement is visible on the ground. Police have increased raids along Beach Road and Walking Street, Pattaya's famous nightlife strips that have become predominantly frequented by Indian tourists. The targeted operations in these areas signal that authorities are actively reshaping which tourist demographics feel welcome in Pattaya's most iconic entertainment districts. The new strategy emphasizes wellness tourism, luxury travelers, and extended stay visitors who spend significantly more money per day. Thailand is actively developing new tourism products catering to premium markets, wellness retreats, luxury resorts, authentic local experiences. The focus has shifted toward attracting travelers willing to spend more on experiences and who tend to stay longer. Tour operators report they've had to turn down Indian group bookings after repeated issues. and the sentiment has become harsh enough that some tourism industry voices have called for removing India from Thailand's visa-exempt list entirely. The enforcement campaign has created noticeable changes in how immigration handles all foreign nationals, with particular scrutiny on visa compliance. Entry checks have become significantly more thorough across the board. Thailand implemented stricter measures on frequent visa runs and blocked access to sensitive border regions for those on watch lists. Anyone previously deported now faces permanent entry bans. Even visitors with valid tourist visas are facing increased scrutiny to verify they're genuine tourists rather than seeking work. The economic impact of these changes is complex. Indian tourists do bring money into the economy. They often travel in larger groups and stay longer than Western tourists. But the type of spending is different. Indian tourists tend to prefer street food and budget accommodations over high-end establishments. This benefits some sectors while hurting others. Street vendors and budget hotels thrive, while upscale establishments struggle. From Thailand's perspective, this is exactly the problem they want: tourism that generates higher revenue per visitor, not just higher visitor numbers. Local business owners express mixed feelings about the situation. Some street vendors and budget establishments appreciate the increased customer base, but others, particularly those who built their businesses around Western clientele, describe losing their regular customers who no longer want to visit. It's a complex situation where economic interests don't align neatly along any single perspective. Thai government officials have been direct in their assessments. They view the current situation as unsustainable: the social tension between different tourist groups, the complaints from locals about behavior and neighborhood changes, the street scams damaging Thailand's reputation, the illegal work operations. All of it has convinced authorities that dramatic action is necessary. The raids aren't isolated law enforcement operations, they're part of a coordinated strategy to send a clear message about visa compliance and legal behavior. However, it's important to note that Thailand's political situation remains fluid. Recent political changes in the current transitional government mean that policies could shift quickly. What seems like a firm direction today could change with new leadership or shifting political priorities. The enforcement campaign and tourism strategy reflect current government thinking, but Thailand's political landscape has historically been unpredictable. For anyone in Thailand, on questionable visa status or engaged in illegal work, the message is unambiguous. Enforcement will be swift, deportation likely, and return virtually impossible. The government is actively expanding investigations to identify entire networks of facilitators and brokers who enable illegal operations. For legitimate visitors and residents of all nationalities, the environment requires careful attention to visa compliance and respect for local laws and customs. Thailand stands at a crossroads in its tourism development. The country wants to maintain its position as Southeast Asia's premier destination while upgrading the quality and spending power of its visitors. The aggressive enforcement represents one side of this strategy, cleaning up illegal operations and signaling that visa abuse won't be tolerated. The other side involves developing higher-end tourism products and marketing to wealthier demographics. The question isn't whether enforcement will continue, it's how the balance between different tourist markets will ultimately shake out, and whether political changes might alter the current course. For now, the raids continue, deportations mount, and Thailand is actively reshaping its tourism industry. The consequences of these choices are only beginning to unfold. What do you think about Thailand's crackdown? Is this the right move for the country's future, or will it backfire? Have you experienced these changes firsthand in Pattaya or other Thai destinations? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to stay updated on the latest news from Thailand, the real stories behind the headlines, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We're covering everything happening in the land of smiles, from immigration policy to street-level changes that actually affect travelers and expats. See you in the next one.